Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Pure Noble. Thank you for coming to another video. Now we're going to be talking about Black Ops 7. I want to give you a quick information about everything we've known so far with Black Ops 7, what the game is about, where the storyline is going to take place. But the main thing that I'm going to be talking about in this video is what does Activision need to actually change to make Black Ops 7 a successful release? Because we already know, right? The Call of Duty franchise is so big, the player base is so dedicated, it doesn't matter how many players are actually in the game, how many players are leaving the game, there's always going to be that dedicated fan base that is going to keep Call of Duty alive. But what I want to talk about is what is going to make this year's release for Call of Duty 2025 a successful one, right? Think back to Call of Duty Ghost, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Those title launches, Call of Duty World War II, those title launches weren't as successful because of a lot of factors that didn't change, maybe problems that were introduced into the game at launch. So what is Black Ops 7? What are we going to have to do, or what is Activision going to have to do to bring in the most player base and have the highest player retention after this game releases? And then the gameplay that you're currently looking at right now, you know, it's with me and my buddy Katsu. We're very casual players. I used to think myself as a sweat, but time and time again, I see myself changing in regards to gameplay, where I really don't want to go crazy nowadays. I really just want to get on the game, get some nice kills, get a win if possible, but at least have some nice highs and lows. So that's the reason why I've been kind of dabbling more with Warzone Casual. So what you're seeing this right now in the gameplay is a Warzone Casual quad gameplay. I'm not going to try hide it. I'm not going to tell you this is some high skill mode. You know, we're really just chilling in this game mode, and I want to have this gameplay play as I talk about Black Ops 7. So here's a list of what we know so far about Black Ops 7. Right now, there's no official release date just yet, but in my opinion, there's really not much of a guessing game. It's either going to release in October or November. This is typical for the release months with Call of Duty. And then the storyline for Black Ops 7 actually takes place 10 years after Black Ops 2 and 40 years after the events of Black Ops 6. It is continuing the saga of the Mason family, storyline. So this is going to be interesting in my personal opinion. I love the story in Black Ops 2. I like Black Ops 2, everything in general. So the fact that they're expanding on Black Ops 2, where we're going to have related near future weapons, Black Ops 2 maps, Black Ops 2 storyline expansion, I'm all for it personally. The main protagonist, of course, in the Black Ops 7 story campaign looks like it's going to be David Mason. And then the antagonist that's going to be here is supposedly Raul Menendez, which is, you know, he already had died in Black Ops 2 storyline. But because of this near future technology, what people are thinking is that Raul Menendez is going to be resurrected by AI technology. And the new modes then features that are coming to Black Ops 7 is they're supposedly talking about a co-op campaign with up to 4 players. This one is going to be interesting. It says there's a possible open world element with the new Avalon map that's releasing with Black Ops 7. So I don't know if it's going to be like an open world where you complete missions in a campaign, kind of like how Halo was, or it could be like an open world where it was like headquarters in World War II, you know, where players could load into like a cruise area, show off their skins, show off their bundles, weapons, all that kind of stuff, and walk around. I don't know if that's going to be the open world element that they're talking about. And then of course in multiplayer, they're introducing near future weapon themes like Black Ops 2, new maps, existing fan favorite redesigns by Black Ops 2, and a new 32v32 mode possibly coming. Now this is going to be interesting. This is probably going to be welcomed the most with our Battlefield players. They're already kind of doing it right now with the limited type mode Crash, where it's 52 versus 52. So it's going to be interesting if they're trying to blend Battlefield elements into Call of Duty. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's always going to be a game mode for it, and there's always going to be a set of players that are going to enjoy it, like any game mode. And then also for our Zombies fan, you know, Zombies mode is going to be returning once again, and they're going to be continuing with the Dark Ether Saga storyline. So for any of our Zombies fans out there, you know, have fun with that. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes. Now, I'm going to be talking about the main things. Now, there's a lot of things, right, Call of Duty that needs to change in order to make the game overall a better place, a better experience for the players. But let's talk about the main things, in my opinion, that Call of Duty really needs to rehaul, change, completely remove, completely add in to make Black Ops 7 and any future Call of Duties for that matter a successful one. Alright, so the very first one, and I think this honestly should be the very first one that people should be talking about in regards to a change that needs to happen to make Call of Duty successful, is the anti-cheat rehaul. Either a complete rehaul of the existing anti-cheat Ricochet, or completely remove Ricochet and add something more effective like Vanguard from Valorant. You know, with Valorant cheating issues, I believe the only real cheating issues that's in there is DMA cheats, right? Vanguard has been doing a very phenomenal success rate of eliminating external and internal cheats. And you can actually see that in the cheat reseller market, because not a lot of resellers sell Valorant cheats. To say that cheating has been completely removed in Valorant, of course not. But I'd say the success rate of catching cheaters in Valorant is a lot more higher than what we see in Ricochet. Because right now, let's dive into what Ricochet could actually do. Like, what are the anti-cheat's actual capabilities? Because right now, they cannot detect DMA. DMA is very far from Ricochet actually detecting that. It rarely detects externals. I could think of maybe 4 or 5 externals that are active right now, external cheats, right? That are active right now that have not been detected. There has been no issues or chatters in the discourse to say that a certain external is detected. The only times that we'll actually see detection rates where cheaters say, hey, don't use that specific cheat, is like internal cheats like Zenith. Zenith keeps going online and offline, and you know, Zenith is a rage cheat anyway, so they're not expecting that to be safe. But nonetheless, a lot of the internal cheats right now are 50-50 chance of safe or not safe to use. Not to say that I want you to use cheats in general if it's okay to use it. I'm just saying that's how ineffective Ricochet right now is on regards to the anti-cheat. The only thing that Activision is really doing that is being more effective than the anti-cheat itself is the legal actions that they are trying to take. They're trying to get into these discords, they're trying to get into these resellers, get enough information so that they can send a cease and desist letter. But even then, a cease and desist letter is not an actionable legal document for them to actually do something. It's basically saying it's a slap on the wrist and a threat saying, hey, if you keep selling cheats, we are now going to take legal action. But anything before that, if they stop, then nothing actually happens. That's the only thing that Activision is doing right now. But as you can see, they've already sent out cease and desist letters to over 120 cheat resellers and providers. But is the cheating scene gone? Is it even minimized to a certain degree? No, it is still rampant and it is still out there. But let's do a quick reminder, guys, right? We can talk about how ineffective the anti-cheat is, but at the end of the day, an anti-cheat is only needed because players need to just stop being crappy players. They need to be more honest. They need to have more integrity. But to ask that 100% of the player base to be honest and to have integrity, that's basically asking for the humans to be perfect, right? There is nobody perfect in the world. Not to excuse them, right? They are still doing a wrong thing in regards to cheating. But, you know, it's realistically expecting 100% of the population to not cheat. It's unrealistic, and unfortunately we cannot expect that. Alright, moving on to the second thing that's going to make Black Ops 7 a successful release is redesigning, decluttering, and probably even adding additional servers for smoother experience for all players. So what I mean by redesigning is that their current systems they have in place, it doesn't create more stable servers. We still have disconnects within the game. We still have low tick rates. We're looking at 20 hertz low tick rates in comparison to other games where they have like 60 hertz, 70 plus hertz. You know, yes, we can account the fact that how many people are joining in a Warzone match, and that's the reason why the tick rate is so low, because it's trying to accommodate that many players into one server. But nonetheless, they've had this ever since Warzone 1, which was introduced in 2020. They've had 5 years to implement improvements, changes, and redesigns to have better stable servers, but they have not done that for us. And then when I talk about decluttering, is that the current servers that are happening right now, they're not only handling the load of Black Ops 6, of Cold War, of basically everything, you know, MW19 and above. it's also the other older COD generation titles. We're looking at World War II. We're looking at the Black Ops trilogy. All of these older games are still on the existing servers. So if anything, maybe the reason why the servers are so slow and bad at handling latency is because they're overloaded with so many Call of Duty titles being shoved onto these servers. So they need to find a way to either create an additional server to push the older Call of Duty title players into that server so that way it can declutter the load that these servers have to handle, or just add additional servers in general. Because right now, the existing servers do not cover every single region of the world. Now, to expect 100% coverage on every single region, of course not. But the areas that still need it, like our Oceania players, that includes me, we play out in Hawaii. The closest server that we can connect to is California. So the lowest connection that we can actually have is like 49 milliseconds if we're in Resurgence. Or if we go into Big BR, we're going to be, I believe, we're hovering between like 80 to 90. You know, ideally, if you want to have a competitive experience, which Call of Duty is a competitive FPS, milliseconds do matter. If you're at 100 plus ms and you're trying to fight a player that is dropped down to 10 milliseconds, who do you think is going to register their movements faster, their gunshots faster? Everything that they do in regards to actions in the server is going to happen faster for the lower latency player, which leaves the higher latency player at a complete disadvantage and a complete unsatisfaction game experience, because they could be a very skilled player. They could have done the play right. They could have landed all their shots, but because of their latency, those shots don't register. Their movement to get behind cover fast enough didn't register, so they get shot around the corner even though they've gotten into cover. And because of this ping discrepancy, now no offense to the players who already have lower latency because they're closer to the server, that's great. I want that for you, but I also want that for our players who don't have a server, who have to fight through the same gameplay experience as low latency players, but having that severe disadvantage on their back end. So yeah, if Call of Duty could restructure their servers, add additional servers, declutter their servers, I think when players have an overall stable connection in the game where their gameplay feels smooth, I think regardless if they win their fights or not, at least they're going to understand that they lost their fight because they got outplayed. Or maybe they were outskilled, not because they were lagging, not because their shots didn't register. Now, the last thing that I think is going to be a key moment that Call of Duty needs to change is restructuring SBMM, EOMM, or completely removing it in the first place. Because SBMM now is not what we had in the Call of Duty era. The Call of Duty era where we're looking at 2009 from MW4, MW2, going all the way up to say Call of Duty Ghost, because Call of Duty Ghost is where they first introduced dedicated servers. At that moment, before that, a lot of the players were grouped up into lobbies that were connection based. They weren't skill based. So that means these lobbies were more randomized. They had a different levels of skill set in there. So that created a very nice high and low experience. You know, there are some matches where you did phenomenal, where you were just killing it in the lobby. And there were some matches where you were getting your ass handed. But what's amazing about that is that when you did lose that match, when you did get your butt handed to you, you didn't complain about the lobbies. You didn't complain about how you were matched with the servers. You acknowledge how good that player was, and it pushed you to improve as a player. Now, back then, you would have that mindset because everyone was playing on console. There was a less chance of people cheating. You know, it's kind of hard to have the same mindset because how can I improve against a player that is using cheats? You can't, right? And, you know, to have that same positive mindset, I don't blame people if they don't have that same mindset now, but we can attribute that to how bad SBMM is. SBMM and EOMM, their main drivers for using these systems is so that they can keep player retention on the game long enough. Because by statistics, if they can keep the players playing the game, there is a higher chance that that said player is going to buy something from the bundle shop. Remember, selling the actual Call of Duty units for multiplayer is not what's driving this game. If you look at the stats, and I always mention this in my videos, over the years, Call of Duty overall player count has actually lowered, has gone down. The amount of units that are being sold has actually gone down, but their profit revenue has not. Their profit revenue has actually skyrocketed upwards to 245%. Now, do you think that's because they sold more units of the game? No, they actually generated that 245% profit increase from the microtransactions that they've introduced into the game. These microtransactions are actually what's keeping Call of Duty afloat. If Call of Duty, for whatever reason, decided to give up on their multiplayer mode and they completely stop selling like multiplayer copies of the game, they are still going to thrive. They are still going to become successful because of these people who are still buying these skins in the game regardless of how bad the state of the game is. Because what I don't understand is, why are they trying to go in the manipulative route for people to buy things from the bundle shop? I'm all for buying cosmetics. Like, if you like that skin, if you like that operator, fine, totally, that's cool. You're an adult, you have adult money, you do what you want with it. But at least have a level of common sense to give money to a game that is actually helping you. Because I think if they actually improved the anti-cheat, they rehauled the system, they created a more stable server so that all players could have a better line and even playing field in regards to connection, and they didn't stop manipulating players by pulling players to certain parts of the world just because they need to meet their SBMM criteria, so that these specific skilled players can only stay together, and they're, you know, completely miserable because they have to move at like 200,000% in order to just stay alive in that match because SBMM is ranked so high. If they just alleviated these problems and made these changes, more people will actually spend money on the game. Because why? They're having a more positive experience. If you have a positive experience in the game, you have a higher chance of saying, okay, yeah, you know what, that's totally fine. Take my money. I'm enjoying this game. I am happy with this game. But hey, I'm not the Call of Duty market guy. I'm not the Call of Duty sales guy. So, you know, what am I? But if anything, guys, that is what I have to say about what's going to make Call of Duty Black Ops 7 a successful launch. And more so, if they actually make changes in this game, the future titles of Call of Duty will still be successful too, if they keep these changes. And I end it here, guys. Have a great day. Have a good one. Stay pure, stay noble, and as always, hashtag bring back honest gaming. All right, Noble out.